Battle of the Blackwater is the biggest turning point in the War of the Five Kings, resulting in the Lannisters maintaining power within King's Landing. But what if the Manus pulled through? What if Stannis Baratheon won the Battle of the Blackwater?
Let us know in the comments what you guys think is going to happen before we even go into this, because it's going to go in a ton of different directions. And Dom Boy, you and me are going to have some serious disagreements, I think, with some of these characters. At least I think so. I'm predicting it. I know of one already. I'm going to just be straight, man. I think a ton of these characters die, and I'm not going to hold back either for fanfic's sake, all right? Sorry to disappoint you. So for this what if, we're basically going with a scenario where the coin flipped and landed on tails instead of heads for the Lannisters, and basically the wildfire just didn't work. I don't know why. Maybe it just fizzled out. They didn't set it up right or something like that. Maybe, Pycelle shot one too many fat ropes into the vat, and it neutralized the destructive agent in it. But it didn't work for whatever reason.
Right.
So basically the entire fleet of Stannis is unharmed. So he rolls up in there. He takes King's Landing. And when Tywin and the opposing forces come from their direction, they're on the losing end at this point. They're not the saviors of King's Landing like they once were. Let's go into the Lannisters, I think, first, right? Because this is going to be a Lannister bloodbath.
Right. So Stannis takes King's Landing, I think, because Joffrey's already in the Red Keep area. I think even though Joffrey should be executed on the spot or maybe even killed, I think he's kept alive, honestly, by Stannis in order to use as a bargaining chip for Robb for justice for his father, right? Because if he kills Joffrey, as much as Stannis has a raging hard-on for law and order, he's like, oh, this insolent child must die. It's like, no, give it to Robb. Robb wants it badly. And if you can give it to Robb, then hopefully you can mend the North back into bring the North back into the fold as they're trying to create their own independent movement up north. So I think Joffrey's actually alive. Cersei, I think, dies because Cersei, she'd rather die than have these men come and grape her. I think that's the implications he's making. She also told Ilyn Payne to just do the dirty deed, as in killing them before
Split
the
them
men
in half
arrive.
the hot dog way with that axe.
Just the most ineffective way of killing them. Just like
great feat of strength. Though.
And I think Tommen dies. Of those three, I think Tyrion also dies. And Tyrion might have a low probability of Varys somehow trying to sneak him out because, there's an assassination attempt on Tyrion during Blackwater that it's up in the air who did it. But what do you think about that? So it's Joffrey remains alive, Cersei's dead, Tommen's dead, Tyrion is most likely dead of the four Lannisters that are within King's Landing, within the walls, and Lancel's dead as well, I guess, so that's 5.
Okay, Cersei is completely beyond dead. She's dead immediately. She gets struck down. But, I mean, if everything goes according to her plan, if it's true that Ilyn Payne is just going to, rip all these guys a new one in there, he'll kill all of them before anybody gets there anyway, from Stannis' forces. Stannis won't even be the one to make that decision, probably. And I think that's probably the easiest thing to go with. They say it in the book and they say it in the show, so it's might as well just go with that as the option. I like the idea of keeping Joffrey alive a lot because I didn't think of that, but I agree with you. Because it's true, man. There's no way that Stannis is going to compromise on becoming the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. Maybe in some other type of scenarios, like if you and me talked about in our previous what if the Red Wedding didn't happen, and maybe if Robb and Stannis kind of, met up at the north to bump Fugly's saving the wall from the wildlings or whatever. Maybe in that scenario, due to this camaraderie, Stannis could have some kind of a compromise. But in this situation, he is going to be high off of his own shit, after having just seized King's Landing and his rightful throne. And he's going to be thinking, wow, this is due to the trials and tribulations that I've paid with Melisandre and the R'hllor. So this is my birthright. I'm not going to compromise even one of my zones here. So yeah, Robb's definitely going to need to be bargained with, I think, because he's not going to do it either. He's stubborn as hell. Tyrion is also for sure dead. He definitely, his own side is probably going to want him dead after this whole wildfire blunder. Dude, that guy is dead as hell. Lancel, another one. I think he's dead. Most of the Lannister forces here are going to die. Varys, I don't know. You mentioned Varys. I'm not sure what happens with him. Littlefinger, he's going to be in the vicinity no matter what, and I don't think that he dies. I don't think that Littlefinger dies. I don't know how you feel about that, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'll just give you a little spoiler alert version first. Basically, in this scenario, man, Tywin is not going to be able to take King's Landing if Stannis has already captured it with his full fleet and forces. So Tywin is going to be really hurting. The Lannisters are going to be really hurting too. The alliance with the Tyrells is probably even up for questioning here. So I think that Tywin is going to have to use any little resource he can get. And the whole sequence of events leading up to the Battle of Blackwater, Littlefinger was definitely on Team Lannister, and he was getting shit done for them. So I could easily see, and I feel like we go this way with all of our what ifs, but I could definitely see Tywin kind of mobilizing Littlefinger to go to the Vale and recruit the Vale for Team Lannister, right? And then why wouldn't Littlefinger go along with it, right? Luckily for Tywin, Littlefinger's got a little calcium deficiency and he wants some milk. And where can he find it? With crazy-ass Lysa. And really, he could say he's doing it for Tywin, but he's just setting himself up for a good future as well if it turns out that Tywin has no chance whatsoever. So I know I talked a lot there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Peter definitely has one foot in the Lannister camp and one foot into whatever direction he wants to do, which will lead him to the Vale. Even though he has a foot in both camps, I think his next move, if Stannis wins, is to go to the Vale no matter what, whether it's under the orders of Tywin or not. Littlefinger goes up north. He goes up to the Vale and he sits there. Now, I don't know what Littlefinger's next move is, whether he wants to convince Lysa to back Tywin or not, but he's definitely up there, and I don't know if he's going to try to somehow, which we'll talk about this, I think, right now, I guess, because I don't want to go too far out of King's Landing before we start bringing in the north and other places, but Sansa, so in the books, Sansa is up in her own kind of area. I'm trying to remember her exact...
She's in her room or something,
her room,
chambers.
where that's at, because she also has, like, a conversation with the Hound before he leaves, but, she's there. There's no risk of her getting her head chopped off by Ilyn Payne, which now, as we were talking about Ilyn Payne just executing all the women within this area in like the most comedic way possible.
And realistic.
I wonder if he just gets like a running start and they're all kind of like lined up in a single file line. Let us know down in the comments. What's the funniest way Ilyn Payne could execute as many people as possible in the most effective way and comedic way?
I'd be trying to, if I was him, I'd be trying to have fun with it. It's just you with a bunch of people that are prepared to die without fight,
right?
Or, without a struggle. So it's like, I'm going to test what I can do here. Maybe like stack two of them on top of each other. So, one on the other one's shoulders and see if you can do it, like I said, the hot dog way, 2 people, 1 swing. And if that one works out, make it 3. See what you can do.
I think Sansa lives, right? She's there within King's Landing. I don't know if Littlefinger's motivation is to get her out of there right away, but let's just figure out right away just the situation with her. I think she's alive. In the show, she's in, the Red Keep or, the area, I think I'm pretty sure she's there with Cersei, right?
I think she's with Cersei, in the show.
Yeah, Cersei basically just like slips out of the Iron Throne because she just sees her father come in, right? She's like, we've won.
Yeah, I know.
So also some people within King's Landing, and we'll talk about Tywin, Mace, and Randall Tarly on the outside. Bronn, right? He's there. He's a sellsword. Do you think he gets out? And I don't think it really matters if he does get out because I think he just goes to the next highest bidder. And that is not going to be probably a major player. He's just going to kind of like slink away to some, corner.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think he's like a notable ally of the Lannisters. So like, who cares if he stays there? What is Stannis going to do? Like, seek him out and kill him? He's not going to care.
So it's not going to
like another guy in King's Landing.
So he could, live or die. It really doesn't matter. I would like to see him live, but with odds stacked against him, I don't think he does. Now, me and you talked about this. The Hound, there's no wildfire there anymore. No more triggering event for the Hound to see. Does he make it out alive? Does he stay there? What are your thoughts?
I think this is where we're gonna have a disagreement because you're a butt boy. You're butt friends with the Hound. You're obsessed with the Hound, and I like the Hound too. Yeah. But again, I don't know how much you can fanfic this. This guy's probably going to die. Yeah, okay, well, I'm ready to hear it in a minute, but I think this guy's going to die. You're right, the wildfire's not there anymore. He's not going to leave. Therefore, possibly Joffrey's not even going to leave if the Hound doesn't leave. Some of the morale won't be totally lost during the battle itself, but it doesn't matter because Stannis' whole fleet is there, so that's irrelevant anyway. But if the Hound himself doesn't leave, I think he'll just be there for the fight, and he'll probably just go down with the rest of his men. I guess there's a small chance he could be captured and then maybe sent to the wall. Like maybe he get judged and sent to the wall. I don't know how much Stannis hates the Hound. I doubt he has something super personal against him. So like that's the biggest grace I think I could give you is maybe he'll be sent to the wall. And if he is, maybe he could escape somewhere along the way. I could maybe see that, but I don't think he's just like running away or being pardoned by Stannis.
So for the Hound, I think the fire is just the last straw. I don't think he's happy with the situation. I think he wants to get out, and he's just using the fire as an excuse. But the Hound, I just don't see anybody on the Baratheon side being able to take him out. He's so powerful. Look at him. Who takes him out? He just gets overpowered? Maybe, right? But even if he is able to be captured, which he would be a good prisoner to use as a bargaining chip, which I don't know if the Lannisters even pay that price or if they just send him up north. I think the Hound could just say, like, I want trial by combat, which, I don't know.
Right. Yep. I thought of that too.
But yeah,
it's a decent prediction to make. I think that's definitely possible. And who would on the Baratheon side could even stand up to him. I don't know.
No
I mean,
idea.
I don't really know how amazing of a fighter the Hound is anyway. I mean, I know he's like a big, powerful berserker kind of guy, but I don't know. We don't really have the kind of feats or comparisons in the books like we do some of these other characters like Arthur Dayne or Jaime Lannister or Barristan or whatever, you know? I don't know. I don't think if you put him in a trial by combat, that definitely means he's just going to survive, you know? Now that's back to fanfic, in my opinion.
Well, and listen, I got thousands of pages of fanfic of the Hound saved onto my desktop right now.
I've read them.
So, yeah, the Hound, kind of like Bronn, I don't think his life or death really matters in the grand scheme of the Game of Thrones, right? He might help a smaller character like Arya, smaller character. She's a big character, but in the grand scheme of things, she's a smaller character. Help her along the way in some direction, but I don't see him like making, it's going to be him that turns the tide later on. It would be great to see him up at the wall. So fanfic wise, and I wonder if we can do like me and you here and our what ifs, if we can have like a rubber stamp where I'm like, listen, executive decision, he's going to the wall, I'm having the Hound stay alive, because if that's the case, then I'm doing it right. I'm using my rubber stamp or whatever.
Okay, so we get like one per episode? Yeah. Okay. I would love to see the Hound at the wall. I would love to see him up there. It'd be a great dynamic, him and Jon Snow. It'd be great. I mean, him and Arya is great too, right?
Dude,
I would love to see it. What?
The Hound with Sam, he would kill him.
He's going to eat him.
He's going to wish he was back with Randall Tarley.
Oh, dude, 100% true. Okay, listen, man. He can go to the wall if you want. You've kind of sweetened me on the deal of going to the wall. Or you could even have him do some kind of crazy, if you want to make a justification for it, there could be some crazy act of fealty that he performs for Stannis or something if the Hound sees the writing on the wall. And then what could he do? What could he do? Go behead Lancel, go behead Cersei, Joffrey, what? Yeah, we're keeping Joffrey alive, so probably not that. But
he somehow does a more impressive execution than Ilan Payne, but I don't think the Hound.
I'd be so pissed if I was Ilan Payne and I was practicing these executions all night, and the Hound just comes in there and one-ups me. I'd be so fucking. The Hound can talk too. It's crazy.
Okay, so I don't think the Hound stays around, even if somehow Stannis is like, I actually like you. You can be on the Kingsguard, because I think the Red Woman throws him off. Like, this woman literally worships fire, my number one fear of all time, and you worship it? No, thank you. But, okay, so people left within King's Landing or the vicinity of it. You have Randall Tarley, Mace Tyrell. You have the other Tyrell boys with Mace, right? And then Randall Tarley. What happens with the Lannister Tyrell alliance there?
I mean, dude, I kind of just think they survive, and maybe not the sons or whatever, but the lords, I don't really see a reason to kill them. That again seems kind of fanfic to me, because Tywin is such a genius. Randall Tarley is a smart guy too. Mace Tyrell, I guess, whatever. He's a hungry boy. If they're on the losing front, like, I'm not even sure if Tywin sees the entire fleet of Stannis is unharmed. I don't even know if he like really goes in for the sack of King's Landing. He might just kind of look at it from a distance and be like, fuck this, we need to regroup. Yeah. Like, I have no hope. I'm not saying that happens, but Tywin's a smart enough guy. I feel like he's not just going to go into a battle where he dies immediately. It's not like his battles with Robb, where he was at a huge strategic disadvantage because of this warging cheat code. It's not like that at all. This is pretty obvious what's happening.
Yeah, I think Tywin lives because I think he either sees the writing on the wall or whatever and is able to get out of there. So I agree with that. I think Tywin lives. I don't know if Mace gets out. Randall Tarley loves being in like the vanguard, up in front. So I don't know if he dies within all the fray up there. And I love Randall Tarley as much as you do, but I don't know if our baseball boy gets out of there alive.
Well, we do have 3 baseball boys in this one town. Like the city's not big enough for the 3 of them, so maybe he does have to go. And again, like we talked about this before with some other characters, in the grand scheme of the Game of Thrones, probably doesn't affect too much if Randall Tarley dies.
No, but he is just a I'm cool with military advantage that they have for the Reach, right? And like you said, this should not be called the Battle of the Blackwater. It should be Battle of the Baseball Boys, with Tywin, Stannis, and Randall going at it. But I think if Mace is found on the battlefield, Stannis brings him up to the Red Keep and forces Mace to starve in front of him as Stannis eats as revenge for the siege of Storm's End during Robert's Rebellion.
So you think Tywin does a pledge of fealty to Stannis?
Take Mace.
Take Mace and have him just stand there and watch Stannis eat. You know how long it would take for Mace to actually starve standing there? It would take months. Yeah. It would take months. Probably it could even take longer. If he was getting his electrolytes in, man, that would take a long-ass time. But I like the torture. I don't think Tywin's doing anything like that. No. I think he's hightailing his ass back to the Westerlands and trying to, like you said in the last video, man, work the phone lines. He's trying to figure out what he's got left because he's about to be screwed, dude.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Tywin's next play is here, but Stannis, now that he has King's Landing, right? He definitely is calling Robb and saying like, "Yo, there's a new boy, there's a new boss. Listen, come down here, take Joffrey's head. You can bend the knee, and we'll be on the same side now. Just like your father and my brother did. We'll unite the Seven Kingdoms once again." I think that's Stannis' play for the North. Do you think Robb accepts that? And what do you think is Stannis' next move right after he sits there on the throne?
Robb's cringe coomer. I don't even understand his mentality. I think I always thought it was strange that he was so steadfast with this independent North thing anyway, given Ned's stance on everything. So yeah, I mean, maybe, correct me in the comments if you guys think differently, but I don't see why not. Like, if he can successfully get like this actual justice, you could say, right, by beheading Joffrey, the man who ordered the death of his father. Aelin Payne, I'm sure, is dead already in King's Landing, right? So the actual guy who swung the axe, he's dead. I think that's definitely should be enough to justify Robb siding with Stannis. Like, unless you want to go way down the line and like say that Robb sees the insanity that Stannis is kind of falling down with the cringe religion of the R'hllor, and saying that maybe Stannis is going to enforce some kind of like a mono-religious state eventually, where like the old gods aren't allowed to be worshipped. Like, maybe if you go down that kind of rabbit hole, it's possible. But I think no, in this moment, why the hell wouldn't Robb agree with this? It's a great move.
Yeah, I agree. I think Robb definitely bends the knee and does whatever for Stannis, because at this point, he's not...
What's the alternative? They go to war? Well, that's horrible.
Yeah, so then no matter what, with Jaime being their prisoner, Robb definitely wants to get Sansa back, right? As well as I think Stannis offers Joffrey's head to Robb. So I think that definitely will just get Robb to bend the knee. I think Robb... I'm trying to think if the Red Wedding even happens. Does Robb...
Red Wedding, no.
Well, I don't think Robb still betrays the phrase, right? Robb definitely tries to get that the Westerling or Talisa.
He caught a whiff and he wants it real bad. And also, there's also the chance, if you want to go by the book version, there's the Tywin, is coordinating with, the Westerling family or whatever. And that's definitely a possibility. But in this situation, dude, even if Walder is betrayed, another one with the writing on the wall, I don't know, man. If the Lannisters are in this huge losing disadvantage, all the children of Cersei and Jaime now are illegitimate, if not dead. Like, what benefit would Walder even see in betraying Robb other than getting this little tiny revenge for him breaking his own oath? I definitely don't think so. I mean, Walder's not that big of an idiot. He just wouldn't do it.
No, I don't think... Well, the Red Wedding doesn't happen in the way it happens in the show whatsoever, or in the books. I think if Robb still betrays Walder Frey, then he can use that, meaning Walder Frey can use that slight against him to present to King Stannis and say, like, hey, listen, this guy... Robb, King of the North, they so call him. He was supposed to marry one of my beautiful daughters, and he presents, of course, the big fat one that Roose Bolton was going to marry.
Yeah, Stannis is like, holy shit, Robb, you idiot.
Yeah, well, he's like, hey, he was supposed to marry one of my daughters. He didn't. He went against his word. He needs to pay some sort of price. So Stannis definitely is going to say, like, hey, you need to either break off the marriage with this dime piece, that you can marry the dump truck over here that I definitely want to get in on if you don't. But, don't you think Walder uses this against Robb in some way, against Stannis, the man that is law and order and oaths mean things? And I will just because you do something good doesn't mean it outwashes the bad, right?
Yo, absolutely. And I think he would try to do that. And the question is, because Stannis, I don't think he's ever going to lose his sense of honor and justice or whatever. I think it's just more so a matter of like what honor and justice looks like now on his priority list, because if he's now in charge of the Seven Kingdoms, he's like on to like this bigger and better. He'll have this like sense of grandeur about him with Melisandre. I think he would care about Walder's plight a little bit. Like he would side with Walder, but I'm not sure he really enforces it at that time. Or even if he does, like, I don't know how much he cares in this moment. If anything, I feel like that would serve to like piss Walder off even more, and now he's just kind of sitting there all butthurt or whatever. Like, you think Stannis is going to go to Robb and say, hey, buddy boy, like, you better divorce this dime you got, and you're about to marry this too, otherwise I'm going to throw a fit? Like, you think that's going to happen?
I mean, Stannis could. Well, maybe not right away.
He could, but would he?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Stannis definitely just wants the North underneath him, so he's going to use Sansa and Joffrey as bargaining chips for Robb to bend the knee. And once he has once he bends the knee, then I think Walder Frey goes, hey, listen, you just bent the knee to Stannis. Now I just told Stannis that you were supposed to marry my daughter, now you didn't, and tattles on him and then causes Stannis to somehow punish him. Again, it doesn't cause a rift that would separate the kingdom once again. I just think Walder somehow gets his pound of flesh in all of this somehow. Not as much as he does in the Red Wedding, but there's definitely... Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they try to mend it with the whole Tully thing, and he's totally okay with that in the long run.
Yeah, but the Tully thing might be okay. But listen, there's also a situation, too, where Stannis, basically calls over Robb to bend him over his knee and give his big, ripe, red ass a spanking. I don't know why it's already red. I guess it's in the north, okay? The cold makes your skin red.
Yeah.
But he's going to spank it and make it even redder. And then Robb just says, Stannis, no need. You are correct. I did break this oath. I don't know what I was thinking. I was pee hungry. This girl came up to me. She took advantage of me on the battlefield. I thought my brother was just singed to a crisp. He'd fall apart if I even touched him to the slightest amount. So you're right. I'm going to honor my oath and marry this Frey. And that could happen too. I actually don't even know. We didn't get to see their relationship develop to the point where we would even... I feel stupid even making a decision one way or another on that. But you're right. I do think Walder would try to do some petty stuff like that. And it's not even petty. I shouldn't even say that. He legitimately was dishonored. It's right for him to go to Stannis over this because Robb is such a little bitch in this moment.
And if anything, maybe he just waits, right? He just kind of bides his time and waits and see if the war kind of develops into Tywin's favor at some point. Then he betrays later on. So I definitely think Walder Frey is open to betrayals or some sort of deception like that later on as we go forward, because like you said, Tywin retreats probably back to at least the Riverlands, if not all the way back into the Westerlands. The mountains out there. Now, with the mountain being out there, not in King's Landing, does this draw out Oberyn Martell to come out and get revenge in the Riverlands? Like, what the hell is he doing if he's not going out there trying to hunt for the mountain?
Dude, what is he doing at any given time? He's just being a cringe lord, man. Hanging out in brothels. You know how many venereal diseases this guy has? It's off the charts. He's got enough crabs to fill the narrow sea, and he's so full of hepatitis B. There's my poem for the day.
Thank you.
I think that, he maybe would go after the mountain. He wants to do it at some point anyway. I just feel like if the situation is not presented perfectly for him, I doubt he's on this bounty hunter mission, trying to track this guy down with all of his free time. It's definitely possible, but I don't know. If I was Oberyn, man, I'd be hanging out in Dorne, and I'd be getting increasingly pissed off that I've never gotten a chance to sit in Doran's chair. It's like, why does this guy get to be the only guy in Westeros with a chair that wheels around until Bran gets one custom made for him, but that's kind of a unique situation.
Give me 10 seconds in the chair for
just 10.
Prince Doran, please. I'm not going to beg you any more than this. Give me 10 seconds.
It's like we're family. You never offered this one time. How hard is that?
That's kind of rude now that I think about it. Well, what happens with all of Dorne at this point? Because Marcella Baratheon's down there, I don't think they send her back up to Stannis. Do they make a stand? Do they just say I think we might have misplaced her? Well, what do you think their excuse is?
Yeah, they lose her. They put her in the wrong shelf. I mean, she's no longer a Baratheon or a Lannister. She's a bastard. So I don't think she really has any value whatsoever.
They love bastards, and I'm speaking like I'm speaking like who's her name?
Nice,
Calypso.
Nice accent
from Pirates of the Caribbean. Hey,
right.
And we love our bastards down here.
We love our bastards. Yeah, I hate Dorne, dude. Fuck Dorne. Fuck toad people. Are you kidding me? Toad people? They're so gross. They're all yeller. I think that unless there's some kind of crazy curveball where Dorne allies itself with the Westerlands and Tywin, who's now weakened,
there's no
they
way.
have no use. Right, there's no way. So they have no use for Marcella. I don't think they kill her or anything, like you say, but she's not safe anywhere else. So they either ship her back to the Westerlands or, I don't know, they just keep her around as maybe like a cupbearer or something like that in Dorne. And I don't think much happens with Dorne. I think they just kind of keep to themselves.
I mean, who's his name? Doran sent Quentin out there to go get, in the books, right? He sent his son out to go court Dany. That's his main play right now. This whole Marcella possibly being the queen after Joffrey died, that plot goes away. I guess they could say, yeah, this is the legit line still, and they don't play this whole DNA test path that Stannis goes through, being like, yo, you are not the father. Sorry, I'm the rightful king.
I read a book that told me the only way to be a Baratheon is with dark hair, so I would know. Yeah. But, okay, yeah, listen, everybody's trying to send somebody over to court Dany. And I think Stannis is probably sending a little somebody over there too, and it's probably a slippery little shadow demon that looks like Vizzy 3 to take her out. So I don't know. Do you really think Dany lives through this whole thing? I mean, this is a way more competent king on the throne the Red Woman, like she can lay an egg and it's going to be a pretty destructive one. I think Dany probably dies. Again, I'm trying to be as non-fanficky as possible here, and as soon as the dust settles over the Seven Kingdoms or whatever, especially if he secures Robb's allegiance, then I think Dany has to be next on his list. I mean, she has dragons now. They know about dragons, and if I was Stannis and I was hearing about those things, I'd be adjusting my collar like getting kind of hot in here, because if those things grow up, my family was kind of the ones that was behind murdering Dany's entire family in her line. So I'm going to be first on her shit list when she gets over
Right,
it.
yeah, definitely. She doesn't care whether it's Robert, Joffrey, whoever. Every person's a usurper to Dany. And, Stannis, I think that's a good call that the Red Woman definitely is going to try to birth that assassin baby, whatever, to take her out. And I don't know if it's successful or not, but that's definitely a good play for Stannis to do in the future. So, before we even go into the Essos over in that area, and if Dany even comes across the Narrow Sea, we have the Greyjoys still to touch. We still have Brienne with Jaime. We still haven't addressed. Which one do you want to talk about first, sir?
Well, I think it's... We can go into this, because I think maybe even will be kind of a bigger conversation than usual with the fucking swamp crotch incarnate, the Greyjoys. Just disgusting. Little wire pubes, 1, 2, and 3. I'm talking about Balon, Euron, Victarion, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Balon, Euron, Aeron, Victarion, and Theon. All 5 of those dudes can go to hell, man. I think, though, they're going to have a better time in this what-if situation that we have here, at least in terms of Balon's campaign, because basically everything that they do in terms of sacking Winterfell, I think the Boltons still kick them out of Winterfell like normal, but I think the Greyjoys are still raiding the Riverlands, maybe the Reach. And I think, though, in this situation, with a weakened Tywin, why wouldn't they go to, seize Lannisport?
Yeah, right.
Why wouldn't they do that?
Because they're idiots and they're stupid and they smell.
Do you think they're not going to do it? Dude, they smell like absolute shit. And it's I think more and more, they're going to probably encroach on the Westerland territory until they have Tywin's balls, flattened between 2 plexiglass pieces with 4 screws on each corner, just tighten until they're like pancakes. And I would like to say that Tywin could get out of that easily. But, I mean, if he's taking it at, both ends, I don't know what the whole situation is with the war at this point. Do the Lannisters have an ally with the Tyrells or whatever?
Yeah.
I feel like whoever's got the last 4 digits to the code that opens Marjorie's chastity belt, are basically the ones that are going to secure that alliance. So I don't know who that is at this point, but the Greyjoys, I think, are going to be able to make some serious headway in the Westerlands, at least compared to what they did in the main series.
Yeah, I think the Greyjoys are able to probably stay within the west side of Westeros and be over there raiding the Reach, Lannisport, and probably not have to get too deep into the Narrow Sea at all to get their riches and probably get the rocks off. I just don't know what the Greyjoys' bigger plan is. Do you think they still...
Balon wants the Iron Throne a retard.
Balon's going to die. Balon's going to die. He's an idiot. His brother Euron's going to take over still. I think that just goes unaltered. I think it still goes down the same path. Euron leads the Iron Fleet to do what, though? Does he want to still take King's Landing? Does he still want to become king of some sort? I think he does. He probably goes out and tries to court Dany as well. But
if she's alive,
if the assassin baby is able to get over there, because it's weird, because Stannis is going to be in King's Landing. I think all of his focus goes on stabilizing all of the realm, also sending a shadow baby potentially somehow to Essos. Maybe that's the whole mission for Melisandre, or is she going to go up to the wall? Because that's another part we haven't touched either. Is what's the threat at the wall? Stannis is now with his army going up there. What's
Well, but before we go with that, I personally think that we could put the Dany thing to rest quickly, because even if it's not, like you said, there's so many ways it could happen. They could send Melisandre over there, and that could be basically her exclusive task for a while, because Dany really is the biggest threat long term if Stannis is smart, which he is. So I think that she's going to die one way or another. Whether it be a shadow baby, or if Stannis uses more traditional methods, he could hire a faceless man from Braavos if he really wants to. He could do a ton of different things to take out Dany. I don't see how she survives. I just really don't. I don't understand how she survives. I don't think that the cheat code dragons can save her. I don't think the Yeehaw Unga Bunga Dothrakis can save her. I think that, Unga Bunga Desert. I don't think they can do it.
Okay, so Dany dies. These dragons are loose. Maybe we have Varys somehow trying to bring Fagon over there to get all of the dragons, or at least maybe 1 or 2 of them underneath his. Or we talked about in our what if did we talk about that Euron is able to take all the dragons? I think it was
I almost think it was the Red Wedding one.
Yeah, it might
wasn't
have
it?
been the Red Wedding one. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, right, because supposedly Euron has this horn that can control dragons.
Right.
So if you want to go young Griff / possibly the true Aegon Targaryen, if Dany dies and the dragons are wild, the only plot-wise, you could just say the dragons are wild for the rest of eternity and they just go fly off somewhere. That's fine too. But if that's not the case and you want them to actually have a purpose, I think the most reasonable way to put it into the story, like believably, would be with Euron and young Griff. But that's like beyond our purview,
Right.
I think.
So what do you think happens up at the wall now with Stannis? He doesn't go up there to take out Mance Rayder, from this awesome raiding from the north of the wall, which is one of the best scenes. It's underrated.
So good.
Which I think people need to remember. Jon Snow was about to go against guest right and kill Mance Rayder until Stannis arrived.
What a dishonorable little bitch. I think that basically the same thing happens that happened in the main series, except without Stannis. You know what I mean? I guess I'm speaking in terms of the success of the Night's Watch, right?
Right.
'Cause, Robb's army is now capable of going up there. He's not dealing with anything super pressing right now. I mean, they're still at war with the Lannisters, I guess, but they're like a non-serious threat. So if the letter comes out from Jon, like, hey, we need everybody up here ASAP. Like, we're dealing with some serious shit. There's no reason why Robb can't send people up there. The Boltons can also send people up there at this point. I think the wall turns out fine. Because, the Night's Watch basically was able to repel the wildlings on their own, almost, right? And Stannis came in clutch. I think the same thing could happen with Robb.
Do you think all these forces being sent up north to support the wall gives the Boltons, the Freys, or the Lannisters an opportunity to kind of, regroup and potentially make an attack on the north, or somehow reposition themselves in a better spot if the Baratheons of King's Landing, which is going to be Stannis' forces, also send some people up north to the little stinker binguses if they make an opportunity now that they're trying to support something else to get a foothold.
I think so, and the reason why I think it is just because the Reach and the Westerlands, right? Like, these are the two places that I think are the most uncertain in terms of alliances and what's going to happen. But the thing that really seems to always be super important over there, among other places, is just their massive wealth, right? Like, they're always rich, they're always loaded as balls. And I know the show really wanted to downplay the Lannisters' wealth or whatever, but in the books, as far as I know, the Lannisters are not hurting for cash at this point. They are not. And so even if they're at a military disadvantage in this whole scenario that we're talking about, they are still rich as balls. They are loaded, man. So, right. And that can buy basically whatever you want it to buy. It's gold. It's pure gold. So you have the Lannisters with basically unlimited wealth at this point. Robb is distracted up north. I don't even know what Stannis is doing right now. Probably plotting against, I'm not even going to address it because I don't even know what the hell he's doing. Let's assume there's a moment of calm here. I don't see why Tywin, many houses of the Reach, and possibly, the Freys as well, why they couldn't get together and, try to cause some damage. I don't know how effective it is, and maybe they don't even turn it into a hot war. Maybe it's just like, an under-the-table herky-jerky kind of thing, you know what I mean? I'll jay you off, you jay me off.
Yeah, and the Tyrells, if they don't attack, within King's Landing for the Battle of the Blackwater, they have like 50 to 70,000 men or, fighters to like retreat back, regroup, figure this out. And I don't even think, even if Stannis sits there on throne, it's not a guarantee that he has now all of Westeros, but he has legitimacy to his name, that he is the one sitting the Iron Throne. So he's going to put out, his ravens out to tell everybody, listen, there's a new head bitch in charge, and his name is the Manus, and everyone should bend the knee. And even if he has it, I don't think it necessarily is going to be able to unite the Seven Kingdoms together, because the Tyrells, I think the Tyrells really just, what is their next move? Because they have, like you said, Marjorie to somehow marry into an alliance. Robb is either on his third marriage proposal, or he's just going to stick with his, Talisa, whatever, Jane Westerling version within the books. Not going to go with the phrase. I don't think somehow Marjorie marries the North. I don't know what the Tyrells really do, and I don't know if they want to just back the Lannisters to begin with, because who are they going to marry? Does Jaime live in all of this? Because Jaime's heading towards King's Landing, right, with his hand cut off, right? Because I don't think that changes at all. He's heading towards King's Landing. He hears about the news. I'm sure he turns around with Brienne, and they head back to Daddy Tywin.
I don't know what happens with Jaime. Please let us know. There's a couple other characters here that I think we should touch on at least a little bit before we end this thing, because again, we're kind of running out of space here. We don't want to go beyond where the books really are. So Arya, I'll just say, I think that she still basically meets up with the Brotherhood, right, with Beric Dondarrion. But in this situation, the Hound, I don't think the Hound is anywhere around. So when Gendry kind of swears himself to the Brotherhood, and the Brotherhood basically say, hey, we're going to take Arya and ransom her with Robb Stark, she doesn't like that. This is, prior to the Battle of Blackwater, I believe. Either way, I think she still tries to escape the Brotherhood, and this time there's no the Hound to capture her, so she's just kind of off and about. I don't know what you want to go with her. She either dies on the road from some circumstance, or she just kind of finds her way back to somebody that would get her to Winterfell safely. It's one of those two options. She definitely doesn't have an adventure.
I think Catelyn then maybe uses Brienne to go find her. Like, hey, I need you to go find my daughter. Because Brienne's more than willing to, swear fealty to Catelyn, right? Because she believes her. It's like, you believed me. There was this dark man that looked just like Stannis in that one camp that killed Renly. I'll do whatever, whatever. Anyways. But yeah, I think maybe Bran goes and tries to find Arya. I think Bran's storyline up north remains the same. Nothing gets altered. And a lot of the stuff up north stays the same up until the battle at the wall, right, that we see in the end of season 4 of Game of Thrones. You see it in Storm of Swords in the books, where you see Ygritte die. That I think that remains the same, except I think the North assists with the war, but it still remains the same. The conflict, the end result is the same. And Jon stays up there, I think, the whole time, becomes Lord Commander, is never tempted by Stannis. I don't know in King's Landing if Melisandre is able to convert everybody over, because I think Stannis' more radicalization, or I should say maybe not radicalization, but him leaning towards Melisandre definitely happens because he loses that battle. And Melisandre's like, I told you so. And he's like, well, maybe she's right. But if he wins this by himself, I think he might be more leaning towards, the Lord of Light is like just a tool, not an actual
I almost think it's the reverse in this situation. Well, I could go either way, I guess, but I could almost see it being the reverse, because if he wins this and Melisandre can successfully say, like, yeah, dude, this is because of the path that I set us on that this was able to happen. Like, yeah, it was unlikely that it was going to happen in this moment with these slight divergences, but it still happened, and it was because of me. And I think if they do successfully send a shadow creature over to kill Dany, you might be right that he'd see it more as a tool rather than this like deity that he owes fealty to. But I don't know about convincing everybody in King's Landing to adhere, unless, like I said earlier, that maybe they do some kind of like a weird, enforced religious stance kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't really know what the point of that would be. While we're in King's Landing real quick too, just to wrap this guy up, Pycelle. I think Pycelle is easily either killed or sent to the wall. He's forced to wear a plug the whole way up, and it's increasing in diameter each time he stops to take a piss.
As much as I love my Pycelle fanfic that we've written with him getting, cruelty or punished in such a cruel way, as much as I want that to happen, Pycelle was able to be underneath the Mad King and still be underneath King Robert, right? I think he might be able to, slink his way in.
Do you think that the Mad King,
the Red Woman is?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think it's more so not. Maybe I'm just trying to think about this out loud. I think the Red Woman does take out Pycelle or does something to him. He's like, oh, this is unheard of. A woman that can speak at the council. That's Pycelle.
Yeah, and she takes off her necklace and they fuck. Okay, so what about Storm's End? I wrote this down just as something maybe we could say. What happens to Storm's End? Who's the new heir to Storm's End? Edric Storm? Like, I don't know. Does he legitimize Edric Storm? He doesn't have any sons, and presumably if he cares about his daughter, I guess his daughter's going to be his heir. Like, I don't know. To the Iron Throne, I mean.
This is tricky. Stannis really needs to shore up his inheritance, who's going to take over after him. I'm not sure what he does. He needs to continue to pound that tang that he has, but his wife is like, I don't really feel like it. And Stannis is like, I'm only doing this for the duty. You think I like this anymore?
He's on
a
once-a-year schedule.
So I don't know what Stannis. I feel like in a perfect world, Stannis would figure out a way to have a fertile woman in his bed that he could produce heirs to, but he's not going to kill his wife to do so. So that's going to be a really tricky thing, and it's going to open him up for assassination attempts and create more division, more instability within King's Landing. Varys and Littlefinger will probably use that to their advantage. So I don't think Stannis has a good play there, besides just legitimizing or potentially going down like a further line of Baratheons. Because I'm sure there's more Baratheons than just him. They're just like distant relatives that aren't bastards. Because I don't think he can legitimize Edric Storm, because Edric Storm would be now the next in line for the throne, right?
Oh yeah,
there's no
right.
way you
yeah,
can
you're
just,
right. It would usurp his own heir or his own claim to the Iron Throne, not even just Storm's End. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I have no idea what to do for that. I guess who cares at this point? But okay, man, I wish we could do these videos for like 2 hours, because I wrote down a couple other things too, like Stannis would keep the Iron Throne much cleaner than Robert the Mad King, or I put like Stannis prostitution ban, because I do think he might do that kind of thing, right?
Right,
Yeah,
based.
super based.
Yes, thank
I
you.
think a lot of this stuff would happen, and I think it would impact a lot of little things and little characters we didn't talk much about, but man, no time.
I think we should try to do a live stream of this and with other kind of like what ifs and like drafts, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, who the fuck cares? Stannis is sitting on the Iron Throne, and I'm a happy boy. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and smash that like button.
Or not. We don't care.